My name is Amina. I was born into a life of tradition and expectation in a small village in Pakistan, where my identity was intricately woven into my family's religion. Daughter of a respected imam, I wore my obedience like a veil, but underneath, I only felt a suffocating emptiness. Every prayer, every ritual echoed back at me, leaving me hollow. Fear gripped my mind as I dared to entertain questions, thoughts that felt almost treasonous in a world that punished doubt. My life took an unexpected turn one fateful day when a horrifying accident thrust me into darkness. It was there, in that void, that I encountered a divine presence, a luminous figure who called my name, offering me a glimpse of hope and truth beyond the constraints of my constricted existence. This was no ordinary experience. It was a supernatural invitation to awaken, to transform. In that moment, I realized the battle I was silently fighting within, a war waged against my soul. When I opened my eyes to the world again, I found myself labeled a heretic. I felt the burning weight of my family's rejection, their fear of the unknown mirrored in my own heart. I became a stranger in my own home, tormented by loneliness and guilt. Yet, deep down, a flicker of illumination ignited within me, a courage I never knew I possessed, fueled by a growing yearning for freedom and connection. Thus began my clandestine search for the truth that set my spirit ablaze. I dove into the teachings of Christ, surrounded by like-minded souls who offered sanctuary in their acceptance. I was terrified of losing everything, the familiar safety of my culture, my family. But I could not ignore the call within me. I had witnessed a love so profound that it shattered my chains, and I knew I had a purpose that transcended my past. In this journey, I discovered a divine mission: to share my testimony with those still lost in shadows, to illuminate paths toward freedom and grace. My heart aches for the millions who silently suffer, trapped in the throes of fear and oppression. Today, I stand at the crossroads of courage and liberation, poised to break away from everything that once defined me. As we delve into this powerful revelation, I invite you to join me. Share with me. Where are you watching from, and what time is it in your corner of the world? Let's connect. And if you love Jesus, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Together, we can uncover the truths that lead us from darkness into the profound light of hope and transformation. The journey begins now. I remember a life defined by shadows and whispers. Growing up in a conservative village in Pakistan, I was trapped in a world dictated by the strictest religious norms. Every day, I felt the suffocating weight of tradition pressing down on me, a constant reminder of my place, a woman who must obey, never question. The walls of our home echoed with fear as dissenting voices were silenced, and the only truth was the one handed down by the elders. I went to the mosque, dressed in layers of fabric that concealed my identity, my spirit. Yet inside there was a flicker, a yearning that I couldn't quite understand. I knew that people spoke of a hidden agenda, a manipulation that ran deeper than our surface beliefs, but expressing these thoughts could cost me everything. Then, one fateful night, everything changed. My brother, the one I had looked up to, arrived home consumed by rage. He had been influenced by those around him, the elite who wielded power under the guise of faith. I had begun to embrace Jesus, searching for truth in his teachings. I had felt an awakening, a call to something greater. But to my family, this was a betrayal. As I stood before him, trembling but resolute, I felt the walls closing in. He accused me of deceiving our family, of bringing shame upon us. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the struggle between love and manipulation. It was a moment that felt like the end and a beginning all at once. In that confrontation, my life hung by a thread. I could sense the rage in my brother's hands as they reached out to me. I thought of Jesus, praying for strength. In an instant, the world around me faded away. I entered a realm where the air was thick with light. There, amidst the brilliance, stood Jesus, radiating love and compassion. His eyes held a truth that surpassed the trivial arguments of this world. He revealed to me the lies that bind humanity, political games played by leaders cloaked in deception, wars fought on the backs of the innocent. He showed the masks worn by those in power, the hidden agenda of the elite who manipulate through fear and division. I fell to my knees, understanding that this was a spiritual war that transcended our earthly struggles. I saw visions of the state of the world, a tapestry woven with pain, but also with hope. Each thread represented lives torn apart by misunderstanding, technology wielded as a weapon in the hands of the unscrupulous. In that moment of revelation, I realized our fight is not just for survival, but for our souls. The urgency of his message pulsed through me like electricity. Awaken, stand firm, resist the traps laid before us. I felt a weight lift from my chest, but knew my journey was far from over. Suddenly, I was cast back into the room with my brother, the confrontation abruptly interrupted. I looked into his eyes, and for a moment, I saw the man I once knew. I understood he was also caught in this web of deception, a victim of the very lies I sought to escape. As he hesitated, I seized the moment, voicing my truth, the realities of the world, the love of Jesus, and the importance of awakening. The words fled my lips with an urgency I didn't know I possessed, but deep down I felt the tension spiraling. Would he embrace this truth, or would the darkness consume him entirely? The battle raged on within him and in me. My heart raced as I witnessed this spiritual war unfold before my eyes. The light I had seen lingered in my soul, a reminder that transformation is possible, even amidst the fiercest opposition. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the danger was real. I was aware that every second counted. As fear gripped me again, I realized I was not just fighting for myself, I was fighting for my brother, for those still blinded by the illusion. The revelation I received would stay with me forever, but the question hung heavy in the air. How far would I go to protect and share this truth? I've always been known as the obedient daughter of a respected imam, the one who brings honor to our family in a village locked in the grips of tradition. Outwardly, I played my part well. I wore my hijab every day, memorized verses from the Quran, and obeyed the expectations that loomed over me like dark clouds. But inside, my heart was heavy with a sense of emotional emptiness. Each prayer felt more like a ritual than a connection to something divine. I often found myself questioning the very structure that confined me. Was there something more? A truth hidden beneath layers of doctrine and dogma? I sensed a spiritual war raging within me, pulling me between duty and a burgeoning longing for freedom. Everything changed when I encountered Jesus. On a typical evening, the walls of my room felt even more stifling. Caught between the expectations of my family and my growing sense of self, I fell into a state of despair. I remember that night vividly as I laid down to sleep. Suddenly, I felt an intense pull. It was as if I was being drawn out of my body, into a realm that was beyond anything I'd ever known. In that moment, I experienced a near-death encounter. It was a soft light at first, enveloping my being, filling the void I had carried for so long. The essence of love was so pure that it caused every fear and doubt to dissipate. And then, I saw him, Jesus, standing in front of me with arms wide open, inviting me into his embrace. In that sacred space, he shared revelations that shattered my previous understanding of the world. I felt the weight of deception lift from my eyes. I saw glimpses of how the elite manipulate societies, perpetuating fear to maintain their power. Waves of truth flooded my consciousness, revealing the hidden agenda that governed our lives. Jesus spoke of a future where humanity could rise above division and strife if only we chose to awaken to our spiritual reality. I realized that what I had considered divine law was often twisted by those in authority to serve their own interests. My heart raced with this newfound understanding, and I felt a true calling to awaken others, especially the women like me trapped in conformity. But as I returned to my body, the warmth of that encounter began to fade, replaced by the chilling reality of my situation. My brother had been waiting for me, driven by his own misunderstanding of my spiritual journey. When he learned of my beliefs, he saw it as betrayal, a stain on our family's honor. The high tension was palpable, and I realized that my awakening had placed me in grave danger. I faced not only the wrath of my brother, but the entire community, a system designed to suppress any dissent. Yet through that fear, the truth of Jesus echoed in my heart, urging me to stand firm. This is the spiritual war you must face, I reminded myself, feeling the stakes rise. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake the urgency of the message I received. The experience lingered like a flame within me, demanding to be shared. I discovered that many of us live in a state of blindness, unaware of the greater reality we could attain. I began to whisper my truth to close friends, fellow women who wore similar chains of expectations, and what I saw frightened me. Many were entrapped in the mirage of faith that masked manipulation and control. They laughed nervously, but deep down, the spark of curiosity ignited. I felt the power of awakening moving among us, the beginnings of a rebellion against stagnation and control. But would it be enough to break the chains holding us? Then came the day my brother confronted me. I could see the rage in his eyes flare up as I expressed my newfound belief in Jesus. In that moment, fear wrapped around my throat, constricting like a noose. My heart raced and memories flooded in. Memories of love, of family, of moments where we stood side by side, united. I spoke fervently of the revelations I had received, of the spiritual war we all must wage in the name of truth and love. But as my words hung in the air, I could sense the struggle within him, the wanting to protect me clashing with the fear of losing control. Would he continue down the path of deception, or could he see the truth shining through my eyes? The tension escalated, but as I stood there, I realized this was only the beginning of a battle far greater than I could ever imagine. As I knelt in prayer, the familiar rhythms of my faith felt increasingly hollow. In a room filled with the scent of incense and the echoes of recited verses, I began to feel a deep emptiness, a chasm that seemed to grow within me with every obligatory prayer. I was Amina, the good daughter of a respected imam, known for my unwavering devotion. Yet, during those moments of supposed communion with God, I found myself haunted by unsettling dreams. Each night, a luminous figure appeared, calling out to me, beckoning me toward a truth that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. I couldn't shake the sense that there was something I wasn't seeing, something hidden beneath the surface of my reality. The dreams became more vivid, urging me to seek understanding, to question what I had always been taught. I had been warned about deception, about straying too far from the path. Yet, the more I resisted the pull, the more it consumed me. I could feel an awakening stirring within, a spark that clashed with the weight of tradition. My heart raced as I realized I was caught in a spiritual war, one that demanded my full attention. These visions of the figure, a being of light and truth, offered a glimpse of something beyond my constrained existence. In the comfort of my home, I felt trapped, but in my dreams, I tasted freedom. One particular night, when the light enveloped me, I found myself standing before Jesus. His presence was overwhelming, a mix of fierce love and profound wisdom. He spoke, his voice reverberating through the fabric of my being, revealing the truths I had long ignored. He unpacked the hidden agenda of the elite, showing me how leaders of our time manipulate faith and society to maintain control. I saw glimpses of a world steeped in deception, countries torn apart by the lies of a system that thrives on division. It was as if a curtain had been pulled back, exposing the machinations of those in power. I realized how easily people are led astray, entrapped in a cycle of fear and submission. In that moment, I felt a shift within me. Jesus articulated the urgency of awakening, reminding me that to break free from the chains, I had to embrace the truth, even if it meant facing the backlash of my community. The elite thrived on ignorance. It was time to shine a light on their tactics. The weight of this revelation crushed down on me as I understood the consequences that would follow. How could I, a woman raised in a world that valued obedience over truth, possibly stand up against such formidable forces? I ached to share what I had seen with those I loved, the women silenced by fear, the men trapped in their own expectations. But as dawn broke, reality crashed back in on me. My family's expectations loomed like a storm cloud, threatening to engulf any flicker of hope. I could see the shadows looming behind me, my brother's stern gaze haunting me as I struggled to reconcile my revelations with the traditions I was raised in. In sharing the truths bestowed upon me, I could lose everything: my family, my home, my safety. Yet there was a fierce determination ignited within, a desire to break the chains that confined me. As I confronted the fear writhing in my chest, I knew I could no longer ignore the spiritual war raging not just within me, but around me. I began to speak, first timidly, then with growing conviction. In hushed tones, I opened dialogues with those closest to me. The tension grew, disbelief mixed with wonder. I shared the visions, the warnings, the urgent call to awaken. But how could I inspire a movement against such deeply rooted beliefs? Each conversation felt like walking a tightrope. I could sense their fear, the conflict in their hearts as they grappled with the idea of a world manipulated by an unseen hand. These were my people, my family. And yet, I stood on the precipice of a revolution, a battle for truth against the facade they had accepted for too long. In that rush of determination, I understood. This was no longer just my journey. It was a call to arms for those ready to rise. The world I knew shattered on a quiet afternoon. I was driving home, lost in thought when it happened, an accident that flipped my life upside down in an instant. I remember the sound of shattering glass, a blinding flash of light, then nothing. I found myself in a dark, oppressive environment, a realm devoid of hope. It felt as if shadows swirled around me, whispering fears and self-doubt. In that suffocating void, I was trapped, my body lying motionless, and my spirit felt heavy, weighed down by the burdens of my life. I realized I was in a deep coma, teetering on the edge between life and death, caught in a spiritual war that I had only begun to comprehend. Days, perhaps even weeks, drifted by in that dark space. I felt the grip of despair tightening with each passing moment. My heart ached for the warmth of love and connection, but all I was met with were echoes of the past, regrets, fears, and the remnants of a faith I had clung to like a lifeline. The teachings I had absorbed, once comforting, now felt like chains binding me to a system that didn't understand the depth of my soul's yearning. And then, just as I began to succumb to the darkness, a light appeared. It was so radiant, so pure, that the shadows recoiled. As the figure stepped into view, I was overtaken by a powerful sense of calm. Jesus stood before me, radiant and powerful, yet affectionate and gentle. He called my name, breaking through the despair that had consumed me. "Amina," he said, "you are more than what they've told. You must awaken to the truth." In that moment, I felt the weight of the world begin to lift. He revealed to me the hidden agenda that permeated our society, the deception peddled by those in power. I saw the means by which the elite manipulate the masses, fostering division and conflict to maintain their control. Countries at war, families torn apart by ideology, an endless cycle of pain stemming from a lack of awareness. In his presence, I experienced profound revelations about the spiritual conflict binding humanity. I witnessed the struggles of souls caught in a web of illusion, embracing false narratives crafted to keep them compliant and fearful. "The truth lies within you," he urged. "This awakening is not just for you. It's for all who seek. You must share this knowledge, for it is through awareness that the chains of deception will be broken." Each word pierced through the darkness, stirring something deep within me. I felt a flicker of hope ignite, a calling to rise up and fight against the manipulation that held so many captive. As Jesus spoke, the visions intensified. I saw vibrant images of unity and love, communities coming together despite their differences. I felt the potential for change ripple through my spirit, but alongside the visions of hope were stark reminders of the resistance to that hope. I witnessed leaders turning a blind eye to the suffering of their people, technology used as a tool for surveillance rather than empowerment. It was a stark contrast to the beauty of collective awakening that I was being shown. How could I possibly confront such formidable forces? My heart raced at the thought of returning to a world so steeped in deception, equally filled with promise and peril. Suddenly, as quickly as the visions began, they faded. I felt myself being pulled back into my body, the weight of the world crashing around me. I awoke in the hospital bed, disoriented, gasping for breath. The room buzzed with activity, but all I could hear was the lingering voice of Jesus echoing in my mind. The urgency of his words pressed against my chest like a heavy stone. I had been chosen to bear witness, to awaken others trapped in their cycles of deception. Slowly, my fingers began to curl, and the world around me came back into focus. The fight was just beginning, and I understood. I could no longer remain silent. I awoke in a stark hospital room, the beeping of machines pulling me from the depths of a profound darkness. The why? Memories of my encounter with Jesus brightened my heart, but were quickly overshadowed by an overwhelming sense of dread. As my family gathered around me, their faces, once familiar and comforting, transformed into masks of disappointment. I could feel the rejection radiating from them like an icy wind. They viewed my awakening as a betrayal, a dangerous shift in my beliefs that threatened the very fabric of our family. The love and support I had known were replaced by accusations and whispers of heresy. I was now a stranger in my own home, branded as a pariah for daring to follow the path of Jesus. Feeling utterly isolated, I struggled to reconcile the joy and truth I had experienced with the overwhelming guilt that consumed me. My family, steeped in the tradition of our faith, could not fathom my transformation or the revelations that had been bestowed upon me. How could I explain the spiritual war I had witnessed, the profound need for awakening that rippled through the fabric of our society? I felt caught in the middle of their grief and anger, my own spirit urging me to embrace the truth, while their despair pulled me into the shadows of doubt. Each conversation with them was laced with tension, every attempt to connect met with hostility. I had become a threat to their beliefs, and that reality stung deeper than any physical wound. The days felt endless, marked by an aching sense of longing for the family I once knew. I wandered through the empty corridors of my mind and heart, searching for acceptance that never came. Instead, I was met with the silent treatment, the shy glances away, and the disapproving murmurs that filled the air. The elite within my community enforced strict boundaries around belief, and I had strayed far beyond those lines. Yet, with each passing day, the revelations I'd received continued to pulse within me, battling against the pain of rejection. I knew the truth I carried could help others navigate the darkness, yet my own isolation left me feeling powerless. In the midst of this internal chaos, I felt the relentless call to share what I had seen during my near-death experience. I began to pen letters and seek those who might listen. Strangers, friends of friends, anyone who might be open to a conversation. I wanted to shout from the rooftops about the hidden agenda aimed at suppressing our awakening. I envisioned conversations that could ignite a spirit of resistance in others, people who also sensed something off about the world around them. But lingering fears gnawed at me with each outreach. What if I couldn't effectively communicate the urgency of the spiritual war we were in? And so I grappled with my new existence. I attended our community gatherings, where every word spoken felt like a dagger to my heart. I listened as others offered prayers, unaware of the deceptions that festered just beneath the surface. My brother, now my fiercest adversary, stood firm in his beliefs, fervently defending the very system that had sought to silence my awakening. The fabric of our family continued to unravel, and I felt as if I were spiraling deeper into a chasm of despair. Yet, even as darkness encroached, my heart clung to the message of hope I had received from Jesus, a belief that broke through isolation and fear. Would I ever find the strength to stand firm in my truth amid such overwhelming rejection? The battle for not just my soul, but for the souls of my loved ones, had only just begun. With each passing day, The weight of isolation felt heavier on my shoulders. I knew I had to embark on a quest for truth, something that would set me free from the chains of guilt and betrayal that bound me to my family. The rejection they showed was devastating, but amid the darkness, I began to seek out light. My fingers trembled as I typed searches into my phone. Christian texts, testimonies of faith, Jesus. Every click felt like a step deeper into forbidden territory, but I was hungry for answers. I found refuge in the words of those who had walked a path similar to mine, who had experienced their own awakenings. Their stories flickered like candles in a vast darkness, guiding me with flickering hope. I discovered videos of people sharing their near-death experiences, recounting moments that mirrored my own. They talked about encounters with Jesus, revelations about the spiritual war we are all engaged in, and the hidden agenda crafted by the elite to keep us enslaved in ignorance. It resonated with me on a visceral level. These were not just stories. They were pieces of a puzzle I desperately needed to see. They spoke of the manipulation and division that had permeated our societies, how fear was used as a weapon to control the masses. I felt the urgency in their voices as they urged others to awaken, to break free from the chains of deception. I clung to their words, each affirmation reinforcing the conviction growing within me. However, the thrill of this awakening was accompanied by a gnawing fear. What would happen if my family discovered what I was doing? The very idea sent icy tendrils of dread coursing through my veins. My mind spiraled into scenarios filled with loss of my family, my culture, my identity. I wrestled with these fears daily, finding solace in the anonymity I had created through online groups, safe spaces where I could explore my faith without the burden of judgment. I found a small support group, a circle of souls who understood the depths of my struggle. We shared our stories, our dreams, and the conflicts we faced with the harsh realities of our lives. It was in that virtual sanctuary that I truly felt seen for the first time. Every meeting we shared was filled with raw emotion. Together we cried and laughed, supporting one another in ways I had never anticipated. We spoke of the spiritual war raging around us and within us, a battle for truth in a world rife with deception. Each revelation brought us closer, yet also heightened my sense of risk. I realized I was no longer alone, but the fear of losing the life I once knew still loomed large. My brother's face flashed before my eyes, his anger burning bright. His unwavering loyalty to our family traditions felt like a noose, choking the life out of my newfound freedom. As the days turned into weeks, the tension within me only intensified. I was caught in a whirlwind, the desire to embrace the truth clashing with the fear of alienation from my family. I felt the tug of war deep in my heart, and each day became a struggle between the life I was destined to leave behind and the future I was being called toward. It was a reveal of my own making, a collision between the old and the new. But I was no longer content to live a lie. I understood that to embrace this path fully meant facing potential consequences that could shatter the remnants of my life as I knew it. I had to decide whether the awakening I experienced was worth risking everything. A question that hung heavily over me as I prepared for the inevitable confrontation I could no longer avoid. In the days following my awakening, I felt a deep stirring within me, a profound sense of purpose that I had never experienced before. My journey had torn through the veils of deception that had once bound me, and with that came a realization. I could no longer remain silent. Jesus had shown me the truth, and it ignited something fierce inside me, a calling to assist others, caught in similar struggles. Every interaction I had with my support group only solidified that calling. Each story we shared resonated with my own, weaving a tapestry of experiences that reflected our collective awakening from the darkness. It became clear to me that there were many still lost, trapped in cycles of fear and compliance. The spiritual war we faced was not just an individual battle, it was a collective journey toward liberation. I began to feel a growing urgency to share my story beyond the confines of our small group. I envisioned speaking to larger audiences, reaching into the hearts of those still entangled in the hidden agendas of the elite. Their manipulation thrived on silence and ignorance, and my heart raced with the thought of illuminating the path for those still shrouded in darkness. I realized I could use my experience to shine a light on the unseen forces that dictate our lives, to awaken others to their own truth. I started small, writing articles and sharing my experience online. Each word felt like a step toward reclaiming my voice. As I poured my heart into those words, I felt a connection with people I had never met, engaging in discussions that sparked hope and curiosity. I was no longer just Amina, a Muslim woman who had left Islam. I was a beacon of truth, a testimony of resilience and awakening. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. With every post, I faced the reality that my family could see my words, could discover the depth of my transformation. Would they understand? Or would they see me as lost forever? Then came the conversations with individuals who reached out after reading my posts. They were searching for answers, just as I had once been. I heard stories of fear and doubt, people who felt trapped in systems that sought to control them. As I responded, I felt the urgency intensify within me. These were lives at stake, hearts yearning for freedom and understanding. Each interaction fueled my determination to continue sharing the revelations Jesus had gifted me. I realized that my experience had given me a voice that could empower others, helping them navigate the chasm of deception that had been so carefully constructed around us. Yet, amid this growing momentum, the fear of rejection remained a constant companion. I often wondered what would happen if my family ever learned of my outreach. Would they see me as a traitor, a source of shame? Part of me wanted to reach out to them, to share my newfound understanding and invite them into the light. But I also knew the risk. My brother's anger still loomed large in my mind. Each day felt like a balancing act between my desire to help others and the fear of losing the last remnants of my family's love. I was caught in a tumultuous emotional storm, yet I pressed forward, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. As I continued this path, the message of awakening echoed louder in my heart. The revelation of the hidden agenda, the manipulation that perpetuated division and strife, pushed me to act even more ardently. I started organizing small gatherings, bringing together others who sought truth and connection. I felt energized by the community we were building, a tribe of souls committed to uncovering the layers of deception that had kept us apart for so long. Together, we discussed the implications of our awakening and the urgency for change in a world so deeply divided. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger movement, one that could challenge the very structures holding us back. But then, a question loomed large. Would I have the courage to stand firm in my truth when it truly mattered? The moment I stepped out of my home, I felt a surge of liberation wash over me, a break from the chains that had held me captive for so long. The air felt different. It was heavy with possibility, yet laced with the tension of uncertainty. I chose to walk away from everything I had known. My family's expectations, the traditions that dictated my life, and the fear that had wrapped itself around my heart. This wasn't just a physical departure. It was a symbolic act of severing ties with my past and embracing the light that Jesus had shown me during my near-death experience. I was ready to embark on a new journey, one marked by the truth I had discovered. Immediately, I felt the weight of my decision. To leave meant leaving behind not just a home, but also the security of familiar faces. Doubts crept in like shadows, whispering that I was making a grave mistake. My family's voices echoed in my mind, reminding me of the path they had paved for me, but I had seen too much to turn back now. The revelations I received from Jesus during my encounter had ignited a flame within me that could not be extinguished. I couldn't sit idly by while others remained trapped in deception. There was a spiritual war at play, and I felt compelled to fight, for myself and for others who needed a voice. As I began to evangelize, sharing the message of hope and awakening, I encountered both support and hostility. Some welcomed my words, their eyes sparkling with the same curiosity I once felt. I saw them grasping for the truth, ready to break free from the oppressive ideologies that had held them down for so long. But others reacted with fierce resistance, accusing me of betrayal and sowing discord. I understood their fear. Change threatens the stability of beliefs we've held for a lifetime. The elite thrive on division, and my awakening pushed against the very structures designed to keep us compliant. Each moment felt charged, teetering between acceptance and rejection. With each person I reached out to, I became a beacon of hope. I began leading small gatherings, creating spaces where people could explore their beliefs without fear of judgment. We discussed the hidden agendas that played out in our communities and the ways political and social manipulation masked. Themselves under the guise of tradition. My newfound faith spurred urgent discussions about the world's realities, wars waged in the name of power, leaders who prioritized control over compassion, and technology used to surveil rather than uplift. Each conversation deepened my resolve and invigorated my purpose, pushing me further into the fray of this spiritual war. Yet, amid this newfound calling, the fear of my family's anger lingered like a specter. I knew that my brother would not easily forgive my choices. In my mind, I danced between love and conviction, battling the thoughts that threatened to pull me back into the shadows. I had to keep moving forward, regardless of the cost. My heart ached for my family, and I wished to share with them the love and truth I had found in Jesus. I wanted to show them that this journey wasn't a betrayal, but an awakening to the deeper truths hidden within our existence. With every step I took into the unknown, I realized I was not just fighting. For my freedom. I was fighting for everyone shackled by similar beliefs. And as the stakes grew higher, so did my resolve. Would I have the strength to face my brother, to stand firm in my truth, and to guide others into the light? The answer would soon reveal itself, demanding both courage and faith. As I reflect on the tumultuous journey that brought me to this moment, I am left with a heart filled with both hope and uncertainty. Sharing my story has been a reckoning, an awakening that transcends my individual struggles and touches on a deeper calling, a call to unite under truths that are too powerful to ignore. With each shared word, I have felt the weight of a spiritual war, not only within my own soul, but also echoing in the hearts of many who seek something beyond the confines of tradition. Every time I step into the light, I am reminded that each of you is part of this divine tapestry. The unseen forces that divide us, that pit family against family, community against community are continually at work in our world. But the revelations I have encountered show me that hope persists even in such darkness. To deny the existence of this war is to deny our shared humanity. To awaken to it is to embrace the profound love for one another as our most powerful weapon. So, I turn to you, my fellow seekers. Have you felt that urge to step beyond the shadows of your fears and confront the truths buried beneath the weight of tradition? Each of us carries a story, and a urgent whisper of awakening waiting to be shared. I invite you to reflect on your own experiences, those moments that challenged you to question everything. Let's create a community of voices, a chorus of truth that breaks through the silence. Share your journey in the comments below. I read everyone, and together, we can push through the boundaries that keep us apart. And if the light of truth flickered within you from my tale, don't forget to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and hit that notification bell. Each new story shared here has the power to awaken minds and elevate spirits in this ongoing war for our collective souls. Your subscription not only supports this channel, but binds us together as we journey through these dark, yet enlightening realms of discovery. In the next video, we will delve deeper into another powerful awakening, a testimony that speaks to the awakening light we can find even in the direst of circumstances. I'm Amina, and I thank you for walking this path. With me. Remember, the truth is a flame that can spark revolutions. Let it burn brightly within you as we continue to uncover the light beyond the darkness.